Good afternoon, Cheektowaga Central families. I am Scott Zipp. I am the building principal of the high school, and I'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon for our high school town hall. My objective today is to hopefully be as transparent as possible in explaining our reopening plans, as well as guiding you to where you can find information, as well as answering questions that we did not have definite answers for on our previous district town hall, as well as answer some live questions if time permits. So before I get started, I want to remind everyone and let everyone know that all of our plans can be found on our district website. You will find a district reopening plan as well as a high school reopening plan. And for those of you that have children in multiple buildings, you will find a Union East and middle school reopening plan. Within those plans, you will find links that I will be referencing today. So I highly suggest that you take a couple minutes out of your day to go to our website, our district website, and you will see in our reopening page that we have many links that you should really read and go through. I will do my best to explain thoroughly the information that you are looking for, but as always, if you have other questions when we are done today, feel free to email me or call. Before I get started, I need to remind everyone, I think it's important that we all come from the understanding of how the reopening schools, how this is happening, and realize that as a school district and as a high school, we are operating under the guidelines, the recommendations, the mandates, the regulations of New York State Education, as well as the Erie County Department of Health and New York State Department of Health. So we have multiple entities that are putting out information for the reopening schools. And unfortunately, not always the information doesn't always line up perfectly. So if you feel like there's been that we've been indecisive in some of our information, we very may well have been due to the fact that the information's changing and it doesn't always align. So I want to thank you for being patient with us as we are continuing to iron out our processes, our procedures, and how we're going to reopen safely for all of our children and staff. We asked for community input, which was very, very important to us, whether it was phone calls, emails, surveys, town halls, live questions. But it's important to us because we realize that we have a wide spectrum of comfort levels. We understand that not every home situation is the same, and what one family may need, another may not, and vice versa. And we also understand that there's multiple attitudes towards reopening. We do realize as a school district, as much as we want to please 100% of our constituents, that it's probably not going to happen. So our goal is to do what is best for the majority of our students to reopen safely. And what we keep missing out on is talking about the education of our students and what it's going to look like this year. With that being said, I think it's important that you realize some of the questions that have been coming in, and if you're reading the plan, we are really offering what we would call choice for our families. Obviously, right now, we are talking about, as a district, we are talking about going to a hybrid model where our students would be in attendance for 2 days and they would be remote virtual learning for 3 days. And within that model, students do have the option to opt out and be remote all 5 days. And we really want, and we're not suggesting one way or another, that is a family decision that we would like you to make. Obviously, as educators, our interest is having all of our students here all of the time, as we know in-person education and building relationships and being right here with your teacher and students is the best form of education. But right now, uncertain times are calling for uncertain measures, and we wanted you to know that you have the opportunity to have a choice in what works best for you. Would you like to be hybrid, which we are going to start with, or would you like to be full remote? Within that, if you choose to be full remote, well, then you are at home, and our education will continue in that remote sense. And I want to add, if you're hybrid, the understanding that you also have the personal responsibility to do what you need to do to be as safe as possible. And when I talk about the hybrid plan and social distancing and masks, a student can choose to come hybrid, and they're going to wear a mask all day. Never take it down, because that's what's safest for them, and you have that option. Again, so we want to have choice for our families. Like I said, the schedule will be either hybrid or remote. Online, there is if you go to the district website, we ask that you fill out that you are choosing full-time remote learning. The deadline was extended to tomorrow, end of the day tomorrow. And that's just going to help us, and we would appreciate if you can do that in a timely fashion. That is going to help us with making our class list, our class sizes, making sure we can social distance in the classrooms, and who we have to set up where, and scheduling, and all the internal pieces that we have to do. And realize if you go on today and you pick that you would like remote learning, we did have this. A couple people then came back and said, is it too late to change? And I'm going to address that today. Again, in regards to how we do scheduling. So, I did mention I'm going to go through some questions that we may have missed on our district town hall, and I'm going to take some live questions. But before I do, I want to go through a day in a life, because a lot of this may answer some of your questions, and it won't be as repetitive. Maybe some of you may be at work and you have to get off, but I want to try to go through. So, a day in the life of a high school child, and I want to add, this is currently. Like, really, everything is subject to change, but this is our current of how we are going to operate. But there is still a lot of conversations going on between the district, the unions, the administrators, families, town halls, questions that we are working through this together. So this is current. So your child will get up in the morning. We're asking that you go through the questionnaire and the questions with your child about, can I go to school today? That is posted on our website. It is in our district opening plan. You will see a series of 4 questions. And as you go through this, if you answer no to all of the questions, you are on your way to school. And if you answer yes, it guides you to where you go. So that's going to happen in the morning. Our expectation is our parents are helping us out, asking those questions, as well as taking your son or daughter's temperature, as that is one of the questions of, do you have a fever of 100 or above? From there, your child will have their mask on, and they will head to the bus and wait at the bus stop. Buses are set up to have 1 child per seat. Based on our hybrid model of 50% capacity, we should have and as well as parents that have offered to drive their child to school and from school, which we do appreciate, because it is making it a little easier for the scheduling of buses. And not every family has that opportunity. So those of you that do, we thank you very much. You're not only helping yourself, but you're helping other families in our district. And I think that's important to note. So the child's on the bus. They're wearing a mask. The bus arrives at school. They're getting off. They still have their mask on, and they're going to come through our front doors. When entering our front doors, we will have periodic temperature checks. We have a number of our thermometers that we'll be utilizing to do periodic temperature checks to just, again, keep the safety and security of our schools. And in that morning, the students will be able to get breakfast like they normally do. We will have a breakfast cart that, unsure of location, may be in the foyer, may be elsewhere, whatever's going to be best for logistics. And we will also have our cafeteria set up where students can eat the breakfast. And the cafeteria, I just want to pause there for a minute, because I'll talk about breakfast and lunch, realizing that our cafeteria will be set up with individual desks this year. All desks will be 6 foot apart, social distancing, so students can eat. Obviously, they'll not be wearing a mask while they are eating lunch. It will be the same for breakfast. Student will also have the option to take that breakfast from the breakfast cart, head right to their homeroom / first period. We are combining the 2 of those this year to have one less movement in the hallway. and they can eat there where they would then dispose of their garbage. While in the class, and then, we'll have our typical high school day. We right now are still working with an 8-period day that we're also looking at to see if we can modify to limit the amount of movement and what we're actually doing here. But we're currently at an 8-period day. While in that classroom, again, we are set up for 50% capacity. Students will be 6 foot apart and social distancing. Students are, whenever they are traveling from class to class in the hallway, they will be wearing masks. Anytime that we feel that the social distance of 6 foot will be compromised, students will have to wear their mask. As it currently stands right now, and that we have in our plan, if a student is socially distant in a classroom, sitting down, teachers in the front of the room, and all students are sitting, that they can take their mask off. And again, like I said, we're in conversations, and like I said earlier, not all the recommendations and regulations line up. Some say or, some say and we understand that's been some of the frustration of our families, but want you to realize that we are working on it. This is conversations that are ongoing, but as it stands right now, if a student's in the class, social distance, they may take their mask down. And if we are wearing masks full time, we have to then give the children mask breaks. Within the school day, a lot of people had questions in regards to PE, physical education, and music. Our electives are going to continue scheduled as planned, but will look differently. The social distance recommendation regulation is 12 feet for music, band, and physical education. Our goal is to have physical education outside as much as possible and be able to run our programming that way. Obviously, with inclement weather and as we hit the winter time, we do have plans to have our students social distance of 12 feet so they can participate in phys ed. And the same goes with band and course, as well as using online platforms that our music teachers are investigating right now to really be able to put together, hopefully, performances and concerts that if that's our only option, that's what we're looking to do. As it currently stands, we will not have live concerts here in the district. Hallway passing time and lockers. I did talk about the hallway and passing time. Students will be wearing masks at all times in the hallway. Lockers, currently, as it stands, we were trying to afford students the opportunity to have a locker at the high school. High school is a little different than our other schools because we are changing classes. And we really think about lockers in the winter time of having jacket, hat, and gloves that you might need a place to store those. But we're trying to schedule that creatively, that lockers are spaced apart, and I think we're in a good spot. But just to add with those lockers, if we do have them and if we are using them, they're in the hallway, so their masks would be up anyhow as our protective measure. At the end of the day, our last bell rings, students will be dismissed to their bus or parents that are transporting them. Again, we're back in the hall, masks are up, and outside we go, and we return the next day and start the process again. Everything in there I talked about, the logistics and a lot of the health and safety. I did not mention a ton about the learning, but understanding that the learning is going to be hybrid model right now, 2 days in person, 3 days out that I spoke about earlier on. What exactly is that going to look like? I wish I did have an answer for you. And again, this is something that we're in conversation. There's been many questions. Is it going to be a live Zoom or Google? I do know this. As a district, we're moving to Google Meets. It syncs up with our systems here at school a little better right now. Although other platforms, I'm sure will be used when needed, and there'll be many educational platforms that we are using outside of Google that many of our staff members have. But when talking about the learning, What, is it going to be synchronous, asynchronous when my student is remote? What happens if they have to do something else while you expect them to be on? And we are going to be flexible, and we're being as flexible as we can, and that's why I don't have an exact answer for you right now. As I see it, if school were to start tomorrow, we would, we'd be a little bit of both synchronous and asynchronous, and Wednesdays will obviously look a little different than Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, but we are getting there. And hopefully we are going to give you some concrete answers. I promise you, and I know some of these questions are in the thread, that your child's not going to be behind. We will have everything ironed out, and we will get the information to you as soon as possible. We do have what I will call remote instruction or remote instruction expectations, whether we're hybrid or full remote. And again, you can find that in our reopening plan. That is a matrix that shows the amount of time that would be spent if we were remote or if we were hybrid, how much time you should be spending on your device doing work, how much time you should be doing independent work at your house and in person live, and it has a lot of information for you in there. So please make sure you visit that link in our reopening plan if you're really curious about how much time should my son or daughter be spending while they were at home at the remote portion of their education. So that covers the general day of a Cheektowaga Central High School student. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you may still have questions on. So I am going to go through, and we had 20 plus questions that I'm either going to readdress today because they were really important, or I could not answer them. I believe it was last Wednesday or Thursday night. I didn't have your direct answers, so I'm going to try to answer them today for you. So, question one, this has come up several times, and I think it's important to start with it, and I want to understand the logistics. If it's safe to send our kids back to school, then why is it not safe enough to have parents attend this meeting in person? So my answer to that is it is safe enough for parents to attend this meeting in person, and that's if I was only going to have, I'm stationed in the library right now, if I only had 6 parents that were interested in attending. So it is safe enough. Our goal is to reach as many community members as we can. Our district town hall the other night had 273 viewers, and there is not a location in the district that we could put 273 people. So at that point, that portion would be unsafe, as well as the ability for people, people may have been at work and able to take a 15-minute break to log on, so for flexibility as well. So it's safe to come back as long as we are following our social distance guidelines and the rules and regulations that have been set forth by New York State Ed and the Erie County Department of Health. Question 2, my son is in his second year of Harkness, and I want him to complete the program. Will this happen? Also, how often will they go? My son, and another question that was tagged with that was, what about P-Tech? My grandson's a 9th grader and will be starting the P-Tech program. Do you have any information with that? As well as a question that was piggybacked on that is, can you do Cheektowaga online and attend Harkness in person, seeing that it's a hands-on curriculum? So I'm going to start with the beginning because I got a lot there. Harkness is on as planned. BOCES, which is Harkness and Potter Road, has done an excellent job of setting up a system that would be advantageous for all schools. So the basics are this. The day that your son or daughter attends Cheektowaga Central in person, they will also attend Harkness in person. Nothing changes. If they're AM Harkness, they go in the AM. If they're PM, they go in the PM. One small change that may happen that we're working on right now is typically our AM Harkness students came to school, and then they got on a transfer bus, and that bus took all the kids to Harkness or Potter Road. Right now we are working on a system in which the bus will pick the students up and take them directly to their final destination of Harkness and Potter Road. So Harkness is on. They are really confident in the program they're going to be offering. So if you're here in person, you go to Harkness. If you're home in remote day, you're remote for Harkness or Potter Road as well. P-TECH is just an extension of Harkness, so the answer is the same for that. Students that did qualify and accepted the P-TECH program, again, congratulations, and you will be following that same schedule. The online, so again, I'm going to go back that we are being as flexible as we can for all students. If you are a student that would choose to be remote learning at the high school, but would like to attend Harkness to get the hands-on activities, we will allow that. The caveat is this: you will have to provide your own transportation. So if you are interested in being remote and attending Harkness in person, you can do that, but you will have to provide your own transportation to and from Harkness due to the fact that we have to set up transportation, social distancing, all the things that I did talk about. And if you do plan to do that, I ask that you reach out to myself, a high school assistant principal, Mr. Fata, Mr. Hanford, Mr. Hickson, or your son or daughter's counselor, as we need to have those things as early as can be so we are set up. If I choose remote, question 4, if I choose remote learning, is it okay for my kids to return to school before January 29th when I feel more comfortable and safe? As it stands right now, the answer to that is no. If you choose remote learning, you will be remote for the first semester. And again, this is 100% based on the fact that we need to set up cohorts, class sizes, and every time that we introduce a new person into that cohort or class size, that can change the dynamics of what we're trying to do with following rules and regulations. My next question: what is the policy or procedure if a child shows symptoms? So I talked about our remote learning plan, and I'm not going to go through this, answer every specific piece, because if you do go to the remote plan, there is a flow chart. There are actually 2 flow charts. There's a flow chart that has the questions, the questions that we ask you to ask your son or daughter in the morning. But there's also a flow chart that came from the Department of Health that will talk about if a child does have COVID-19 or is diagnosed with COVID-19 and what the steps are going to be there. So I highly suggest anyone that has any questions in regards to if my child has symptoms, or what if, or what are you going to do, that it would be much easier if you went online and looked at those attachments, because it really goes through step by step of what you can do versus me trying to do it verbally, which would probably take me another hour. And I wouldn't do it. I definitely wouldn't do it as well as you would just reading it. Question 6, when will I get information about the remote learning that I chose for my child? So this question has come up a couple times, so I want to add, you only have one decision. Currently, as a high school or as a district, we are hybrid, and then you can choose to go remote. So you don't need to fill anything out to tell us that you're going hybrid. If we don't hear from you, the assumption is you are registered as a normal student, and we will be scheduling you hybrid. The only thing you have to fill out is if you are choosing the remote learning. And when we are, so the root of that question is, when will we get some information? And being completely honest, I will tell you that you will not see any information until August 31st, the earliest, moving into September, as we are still working out cohorts and class sizes and making sure all the pieces of the puzzle fit together to make sure we're meeting the guidelines, the mandates, the regulations, the laws that we have to follow between the entities that I spoke about in the beginning. Question 7, are there sports this year? The answer to that is yes. Currently, sports are slated to begin on September 21st. And when I say begin, that means the beginning of practice. That doesn't mean they can be doing things now. So the beginning of practice begins September 21st. When will students participating in remote learning return to school safely, and how will I get busing at this point? So the way that we currently have it set up, that if you're choosing remote for one semester. If you then feel that it's safe to return, you would return in the second semester. And during that second semester break, we will obviously be realigning and rerouting our busing for any students that were remote that are now joining us in person, as well as maybe having to change some of our class sizes and cohorts due to the fact that we must always fit in with the mandates of our social distancing. Number 9, when can I pick up a device for my child? So if your child is a high school child, they already have their device. The 8th graders kept them last year, as well as 9, 10, and 11. If you are new to the district, when you register, at that point you'll be either given your device or given more information when you will receive your device. Number 10, if my child feels uncomfortable after the first day of class, can I move him to remote learning 5 days a week? And again, talking about being flexible and wanting our families to have a voice in what we are doing here today, the answer to that is most certainly yes. We can always take a student out, as that only creates more space for us, and we're not suggesting that you take them out, but so you understand, it's easier to take a student out than it is to enter a student due to what I've talked about with the scheduling, social distancing, cohorts. 11, will students' temperatures be taken before they get on the bus? The answer to that is yes, and the reason I answer that as yes is our expectation is parents, family members are taking the temperatures of the children before they leave the house and asking our questions. But I will remind you that we will be doing periodic temperature checks here at school. Question 12. This is an important one that we're a little confused, or I was confusing in my answer on the other night. How are you determining if a child is cohort C, and will you let parents know? So the determination of cohort C at the high school level is simply this: if a child is in a 12-1-1 classroom or a 6-1-1 classroom as designated by their IEP, they will be in cohort C. And yes, we will most definitely be contacting you to let you know that we think it's in your best interest to be in cohort C, as some of those are more needier students that we want to give the most help to. I will also add, within the 12-1-1 and 6-1-1, we also have our ENL program, our students that are English language learners, that will also be given the opportunity to be here 4 days a week in cohort C. 13, what would we do if we didn't receive any mailings regarding transportation or reopening? If you have not received any information, and I'll add, all of our information has been sent out via email, via robocall, via text, our Global Connect system. If you have yet to receive anything, I highly suggest 2 things. You call our high school, our district, which is 686-3600. You can call your building directly. Anyone can help you. That is telling us that the information that we have in our student information system is incorrect and you're not getting that, and we need to update your phone number and or email as soon as possible so that you are getting our information. And again, call the district or your child's building. We will be able to help. 14, will students with medical excuses to exclude from wearing masks be in classes with students required to wear masks? And the answer to that is, well, I'm going to reread that question. Will students with medical excuses to exclude from wearing masks be in classes with students required? Okay, so basically, students that have a medical excuse not to wear their mask, will they be in the same classrooms? And the answer to that is yes. Based on the regulations that came down from New York State Education, as well as the Department of Health, students that have medical clearance, and that's not just showing up and saying, hey, I have medical clearance, there is a process to this, that do not have to wear masks, will be currently integrated with students that are wearing masks. We understand that there's some difference of opinion out there, and I have fielded some of those emails and seen some of the chat. But at this point, we do need, as a school district, we do need to follow the regulations and treat everyone fairly based on those regulations. So the answer to that currently is yes. 16, will there be freshman orientation? The answer to that is yes. I think I'm going to stop there. Our plan will be rolled out. We will have it solidified tomorrow. To be completely honest, we are basing it on our town halls, our questions, information and feedback that we're getting. My goal was to have it in person, as we stated on our district town hall last week. And that's currently still the plan, but again, things are subject to change, but right now we're planning to have it next Thursday. 17, what is the plan to decrease overcrowding in the hallways while changing classes? So the plan was to go hybrid. Hybrid allows us to be at 50% capacity, which will obviously take care of the overcrowding and give us half of our students per day while in the hallway. And a reminder that while we are in the hallway, because 6-foot social distancing may not always be possible, students are required to wear their masks. A remote day is going to be 8 hours like a regular school day. So are they going to be 8 hours? The answer to that is no. I will tell you that each day may look a little different based on the time, depending on what the teacher had assigned that remote day, what video they uploaded, or if they are live that day. But I will tell you, we do have some general expectations that you can find. I spoke about this earlier. The general expectations for our remote learning are found in our reopening plan, which is a link, and you will see it gives time frames based on grade level. I know this is a high school town hall, but it does have the time frames for pre-K through 12. Number 19, if a child does remote learning, can they play sports? The answer to that is yes. If you chose to be remote, you still are eligible for sports, but you still are part of our academic eligibility as well as our attendance eligibility, and we will be taking attendance daily for those that are in person as well as those that are remote. And if you don't meet the criteria, you will not be available or eligible for sports. 20, will children be required to get the COVID vaccine? This question was asked at the district town hall. I am not a doctor. I am in no way, shape, or form the person for answering that question. I apologize, but that's something that is more through government and healthcare. 21, if a home situation changes, can a student move from hybrid plan to full remote learning? Again, that we address that. That's yes. Same as someone not being comfortable after day one. You can always move to remote. Will the daily health survey be administered electronically or on paper? The answer to that is neither. Our expectation is that our parents are verbally doing this with our child, and if any of those answers are yes, you are following the flow chart, which always in the flow chart starts with stay at home, and the second step is always inform your school, and then they move from there. But we are asking that you do this every morning, but there's nothing electronic or paper that you need to fill out. 23, how will you handle parents, students who refuse to wear a mask? This has come up several times, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this. So wearing a mask at this point of our new norm is nothing different than any other expectation that we will have in the high school. If it's our expectation, we obviously expect that students are going to follow those rules, and when they don't, we will treat them the same as we treat everything else. It's our expectation that you're not going to skip class, but when you do, we have a discipline process in place, progressive discipline that we follow, and we work from there. Someone that is not complying with what we're doing or asking them to do with the wearing of masks would be no different. And I just want to add this question does come up quite a bit. People have a focus on what are we going to do to discipline students, and I want to put out there that we shouldn't underestimate our 9 through 12 students. We have a list of We have a code of conduct, we have a list of expectations, and 98% of the time our students do what we expect them to do. I don't see this being any different. Our students at Cheektowaga Central always step up to the plate and do what's best, and their true character does shine through. So I'm not going to lie to you, I'm pretty confident that we'll be okay with this. 24, will there be 1 hour early release each Thursday? Whoever asked this, thank you, because we seem to keep missing this, and it's a very important aspect of our town, or it should be. Thursday 1 hour release is no longer happening. With our hybrid model, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday will all be the normal school day. So our typical Monday will be every day this year. We will no longer, while we are in this hybrid plan, have the Thursday 1 hour release. We don't feel like we can afford to lose our students another minute when already in this hybrid model. So I will now move to the live questions. So those were the questions that I didn't have exact answers, or maybe they came late because I would have known the Thursday answer, but those were answers that we felt like were unfinished business from our district meeting. So now I will move into some of the live questions. So at this time, if you do have a question, I know our moderator had asked that you hold off on questions. This would be the time to enter them, and I will go through, and if it's not a repeat, answer it the best I can. The first one, 25, I am new to the high school. Where can I find a supply list? So unfortunately, we don't post supply lists at the high school. Not to mention, we are at a point where you don't even know who your teachers are, as we're still currently working on the schedule. But typically at the high school level for many years, supplies are minimal. There's your obvious paper, pencils, folders, binder, but as we move into this hybrid model and the utilization of our Chromebooks and being one-to-one, the biggest school supply you have is the district issued Chromebook, and we're doing a lot of things electronically. So if you are new, welcome, but you will find a lot of this information out as we begin school. 26, can you reiterate how instruction will be done online utilizing Google Meets or Zoom? So my reiteration really at this point is I don't have a specific answer. Well, I have a lot of information, but not that it's specific enough where I want to share of what it's going to look like for the remote, because we're still having conversation about synchronous, meaning are they doing it at the same time classmates are doing it, versus asynchronous, are they doing it whenever they're available because they have other obligations that they might have to take care of, and how can we balance this in the best interest of our families, our students, but our teachers as well, because it's, although it sounds easy coming off the tongue, it's not very easy when we're talking about making some of these things happen. So we're trying to figure out what is going to be the best method to deliver instruction in person as well as remote to give us the best learning platform, engagement, and integrity that we can for all of our students. Excuse me. 27. With limiting visitors in the building, when can parents drop off medicine or other items for their child for the start of the school year? So this will be addressed in the information that we send out as we get closer, due to the fact that students that are going to be full remote are going to need to pick up items that they might need to have at home. Your English class may be reading a book that you're going to keep and have for the year. At the same time, medicine drop off or other things that need to be dropped off, we will have a day that parents will be able to do both drop off and pick up, and that will be communicated to you when we have that. 28, who do we contact for issues with our Chromebooks? So then my assumption is obviously you have your Chromebook and it's not operating properly. In our reopening plan, you will see a section on technology that gives you the phone numbers and the names of the people to contact that will be able to help you. I will tell you that more than likely you're going to get an answering machine. You leave your name your number that you can be reached at, because our system doesn't always have updated numbers. So please leave a number that you can be reached at, and probably within 2 days you will be contacted and set up for repair, replacement, or your troubleshooting will take place. So please look at our reopening plan for that. All right, the next live question is, why will temperatures only be taking periodically? The recommendation from New York State Ed is that parents are responsible, and the expectation is that they are checking on their kids in the morning, making sure that they are well enough to go to school, and the schools do not even need to take temperatures. We added that we wanted to do periodic temperature checks, which may be a whole bunch all the time, who knows. We use the word periodic to give ourselves some working room, but the expectation and recommendation from New York State was that this was their responsibility, but we wanted to add an extra layer if we could to, again, add to the safety. I understand there's a group that would think that we should be taking everyone's temperature all the time, but some of this becomes logistics, and as well as working within New York State education recommendations, regulations, as well as the Erie County Department of Health. How will sanitation be done between classes? So high-touch areas, I'm going to talk about generally in school, our high-touch areas, bathrooms, railings, things like that will be cleaned twice daily, if not more, but a minimum of twice daily. As for the actual classroom and the desks, there's a spray bottle as well as paper towels, disinfectant that will be used in between classes for desks. When will students get their schedules? Again, I mentioned that these things will go out August 31st or later. As I'll tell you, we do have schedules done right now. Are we ready to release them based on that things may continually change? No, we are not. So those will be out last minute. Will clubs and activities be offered at this time, either in person or virtually? So right now, clubs and activities are not being offered at this time. So when you say that, I'm thinking September 8th, the first day of school. And the reason for that is we have determined that we're going to have enough that we're trying to monitor and keep track of and make sure the health and safety, welfare of our students is and our staff is in a good spot. So we were going to look to phase things in. Part of the reason I think athletics picked September 21st, like let school get started and phase things in, we would be looking to do the same. We want to make sure we can get up and running and really make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's before we start to open too many things up. Is it our hope that those will be opened up? Without a doubt. We want our students engaged in as many activities as they can. We want them having peer interaction. And again, if we could, we'd have all the students here all the time. Our service hour is going to be required for seniors. Currently, we have a service hour requirement for seniors at 20. I haven't even thought of that at this point. With everything else that we've been working on with the reopening, I will address that at some point. But when we talk about social distancing and not having the opportunity to do them, I would see that we may be, reducing the number, or may have to, delete them for another year. But at this point, I am unsure. When will busing information be sent out? I cannot answer that. That comes from transportation. But again, I'm going to give you my best guess of school begins September 8th, end of August, beginning of September. A lot of these things are going to be arriving to you last minute. And we apologize. If we could, you would already have them in your hands. But again, as things change, as regulations change, as requirements change, and just having the time to sort through and figure out We have 2,200 families. Trying to figure out the cohorts on our surnames is a task as it is, and then dividing them up into busing and so on and so forth in our cohorts. So that will be coming as soon as possible. But again, I would expect the beginning of September. Question 35, will study halls be offered for in-person days? So it's interesting that you asked that question, because I had mentioned that we're currently at an 8-period schedule, and I hesitated, and the reason I hesitated is we are currently looking at, is there a way that we can condense our schedule to still meet the needs of our teachers and our contractual obligations, but to eliminate a study hall period, a change of classes, where students are, sitting idle when they can be doing work and doing independent work that they can be doing at home to, again, mitigate the spread or increase safety, or however you want to phrase that. So right now the answer is yes, but we are trying to look at something different, which is holding up our whole schedule and getting things out to you as well. Can you explain how P-TECH is being run this year? Yes, and that was my first question. P-TECH is being run by the same way that the school is being run. If your child is in cohort A and comes to school Monday and Tuesday, they will go to P-TECH Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they will be remote. As if they were in cohort B, they'd come to Cheektowaga Central Thursday, Friday. They would attend P-TECH Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday would be remote. And that goes again, mentioned this earlier, so it might have been a late arrival for Harkness and Potter Road. How do we know what days our children are going to go to school in the hybrid model? That will be sent to you, but it is in our opening plan. It is on our website. The way that it's currently set up is on Mondays and Tuesdays, children that have the last household name, so that is the name in which you registered, the parent or guardian's name, their last name A through K are on Mondays and Tuesdays. L through Z, household name, are Thursday and Friday. So based on your registration, and you can actually see that on your parent portal, but it's based on your parent or guardian, whoever registered you's household name, last name. At what point will a decision be made that full remote will take place? Well, my hope is never, because we want children in our buildings, and we feel that in-person education is what our children need, and if we can do it in this safe hybrid fashion, then this is the way to go. If currently right now the numbers in New York State, according to the governor, schools are safe to open. If those numbers change, if staffing issues change, if a spread of the virus changes, there's a lot of different things that can affect that decision. So at what point, I obviously couldn't answer that. My answer would be at the point when the numbers drastically changed, where health and safety were an issue for students and staff. And I do understand some people are out there listening that are, well, health and safety are an issue now, Mr. Zepp, and I understand that everyone, and I respect everyone's point of view, and but New York right now says it's safe to open schools, and that's why we are working with you, and I mentioned in the beginning, giving many options for families to decide what works for them. Do you want to be full remote? Do you want to be hybrid? I love the question, can I be remote for school but go to Harkness Live? Like, we are here for you. We want to make it as advantageous as we can for you within our working limits financially, as well as staffing. And I say financially, like busing, we just can't add more buses. If we could, that would make our life easier, but we can't. So we are here for you, and we want to do everything we can. Again, we respect everyone's point of view. We truly do. We're no different than you. We're human. We have our point of view. But at this point, New York State has said it's safe to open. Our plan is to open in a hybrid model as like everything is moving forward. And if we need to make changes, we will. And like I said in the beginning, changes may come tomorrow, changes may come in November. I don't know, but we will always be communicating whatever changes are taking place. We have no more live questions. I want to take this opportunity to thank the families that did join us today for joining us. If hopefully I answered your questions and I was thorough enough and you have the answers you need. And again, by all means, if you didn't get an answer that you needed or you want a more in-depth description or answer, please email me or call me. I would, just as a point of reference, I suggest that you email me with your cell phone number and I call you. It's just the easiest way of communication for me versus checking messages that you leave your question on, and we can have a conversation so we're both in a good place. And as well as Mr. Fadden, Mr. Hickson, or Mr. Hanford may return the call because we do get a lot of phone calls, and we'd like to mitigate those questions as fast as we can. So again, thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day, and we look forward to seeing all of our students soon.